I arrived in Riyadh on a humid morning, the sun already beating down on the concrete roads as if trying to warn me about the intensity of the day. I had come to work as a janitor in one of the city's largest private hospitals. Like most Filipinos who leave home for better opportunities, I carried with me a mixture of hope, fear, and a quiet determination to support my family back home. My name is Marco, and my job was supposed to be simple: clean floors, empty trash cans, and make sure the hospital looked perfect. What I didn't expect was that my routine, mundane job would place me in the middle of a crisis that could have cost millions and endangered lives. On my first week, I noticed the hospital's strict routine. Doctors in crisp white coats hurried from room to room, nurses moved with precise efficiency, and security personnel maintained a watchful presence. For someone like me, invisible in the hierarchy, it was easy to feel small and accept my place in the shadows. But sometimes, being in the shadows allows you to see things that others overlook. I began to notice small anomalies during my cleaning rounds. Machines that were supposed to be off would blink faintly at night. Certain rooms would emit strange noises long after the day shift ended. Occasionally, I'd find syringes misplaced or discarded improperly. I shrugged most of it off, assuming these were just minor errors in a massive operation. But one night, something happened that changed everything. I was performing my usual rounds in the intensive care unit. The hallways were eerily quiet, filled with the soft hum of ventilators and monitors. As I cleaned near a surgery prep room, I saw a stack of patient files left carelessly on a counter. Most were routine, but one chart caught my eye. It belonged to a patient scheduled for heart surgery the next morning. As I scanned the pages to make sure nothing had spilled, I noticed a glaring discrepancy. The patient's blood type had been recorded incorrectly. It was a subtle difference, easy to miss, but for a heart surgery, it was a fatal error. I froze. My hands trembled as I realized what I was holding. A mistake like this, if uncorrected, would kill someone. I knew I had to act immediately, but who would listen to a janitor? The hospital was filled with doctors and surgeons, all trained professionals. I was just the person who cleaned up after them. I debated for hours, pacing the empty hallways, thinking of my family back home, imagining the headlines if this mistake was discovered too late. And then I remembered a simple truth. Courage isn't reserved for the powerful. It's shown by those who refuse to stay silent. The next morning, I approached a nurse I trusted. Her name was Fatima, a Filipina like me, working in critical care. I explained the discrepancy as carefully as I could, showing her the patient chart and pointing out the blood type error. At first, she was skeptical. "Marco, are you sure?" "This is serious," she said, her voice a mix of concern and disbelief. "I'm certain," I insisted. "If someone doesn't check this, it could be fatal." Together, we escalated the issue to the head nurse. Fatima backed me up, presenting the evidence with professionalism and calm. The head nurse's expression changed as she reviewed the chart, her eyes widening in realization. She immediately alerted the surgical team and the patient's doctor. What followed was a whirlwind of activity. The correct blood type was confirmed, the charts were amended, and the surgery was adjusted to prevent any risk. For days afterward, whispers circulated through the hospital. How would a janitor, someone outside the medical hierarchy, notice such a critical mistake? Many questioned my motives, some doubted my competence, and a few, especially those who had overlooked the error, avoided my gaze. But I didn't seek recognition. My reward was knowing that a life was potentially saved because someone was paying attention, even if that someone was a janitor. The story doesn't end there. As investigations continued, the hospital administrators realized this wasn't an isolated incident. The error I discovered was part of a larger pattern of oversights: misfiled charts, mislabeled medications, and unchecked equipment. The hospital had relied so heavily on its reputation that it created a blind spot, allowing these mistakes to go unnoticed. Patient safety audits confirmed that these minor lapses, if repeated, could have cost millions in lawsuits and, more importantly, human lives. I was called into the office of the hospital director, a stern, authoritative man. I expected a reprimand or, at worst, dismissal for overstepping my boundaries. Instead, he thanked me. His words were formal but sincere. "Your attention to detail has saved this hospital from a serious catastrophe." We will be reviewing our processes and training staff to prevent similar mistakes. You have done something remarkable. From that day on, my role as a janitor never felt the same. Colleagues treated me with newfound respect. Some doctors even stopped to greet me in the hallways, acknowledging the contribution of someone they had previously overlooked. I didn't let it change me. I still cleaned floors and emptied trash, but the knowledge that my actions had a real impact gave me a quiet pride. My actions sparked systemic changes. The hospital implemented new protocols for double-checking patient information. Janitors and support staff were trained to recognize anomalies and encouraged to report anything unusual. A culture where everyone was responsible for patient safety began to form. Months later, the story reached the Filipino community in Riyadh. Fellow OFWs celebrated quietly, understanding the significance of what had happened. In a place far from home, knowing that a Filipino had made a tangible difference gave everyone a sense of pride. Back home, my family didn't fully grasp the gravity of it all. My younger siblings listened with wide-eyed wonder, marveling at the idea of a janitor saving lives in $1 million hospital. My parents were cautious, reminding me not to let pride get the better of me, but I could see their admiration. This taught me that heroism doesn't always wear a cape. Sometimes it wears a uniform of modesty and moves silently through the corridors of life. I realized that paying attention, acting responsibly, and having the courage to speak up can create change far beyond what we imagine. Every job, no matter how small it seems, has the potential to influence lives. Months later, I returned to my cleaning rounds, but the hospital was different. Staff greeted me politely, nurses whispered thanks, and some doctors even shared a quiet smile. It was about mutual respect, understanding that everyone contributes to the greater purpose of healing. One day, I passed the surgery prep room where it all started. The files were perfectly organized now, double-checked by multiple staff. I paused, reflecting on how a small action had led to such a monumental shift. I never thought a janitor's job would carry such weight, but that is the beauty of life. Sometimes, those considered invisible are the ones who make the biggest difference. My story became a quiet legend. People would ask how I managed to notice what everyone else overlooked. My answer was always the same. I was doing my job. I was paying attention. And I refused to stay silent when something mattered. I realized that heroism is about integrity, courage, and the willingness to act when the moment demands it. I'm just a janitor, but in that hospital in Riyadh, I found that even the most humble roles can hold unimaginable power. Lives can be saved and systems changed all because someone noticed what others ignored. Maybe that is the most important lesson. The world often underestimates ordinary people. But ordinary people, when alert and courageous, can achieve the extraordinary. I went back to mopping floors and emptying trash cans, but I never felt ordinary again. In the quiet halls of that hospital, a Filipino janitor had left an imprint that no one could erase. Thank you for listening to my story. If you found it inspiring, please like this video and subscribe to our channel for more stories that matter. See you next time!